When British engineers first rolled out the Sherman Firefly in 1944, German tank commanders laughed. To them it was just another Sherman, thinly armored, undergunned, and hopeless against the Tiger. German crews had already faced waves of American and British Shermans in North Africa, Italy, and Normandy. They viewed them as easy targets, burning one after another under the Tiger's long 88mm gun. The Tiger was a monster, heavily armored, terrifyingly accurate, and capable of destroying a Sherman from more than a mile away. Its crews believed, with good reason, that nothing the Allies could field could challenge it head-on. So when they saw a Sherman that looked nearly identical to the others, they didn't worry. But this Sherman was different, very different. The first time a Tiger commander saw a flash from nearly 2,000 meters away and felt the armor-piercing tungsten core round punch through his tank-like paper, he didn't even know what had hit him. No Sherman had ever fired from that distance. No Sherman had ever penetrated Tiger frontal armor. This wasn't a normal Sherman. This was the Firefly, the tank that turned the Tiger's greatest advantage into a liability. The origin of the Firefly wasn't glamorous. It wasn't even official at first. It began as a desperate British attempt to solve a problem that had haunted them since 1942. Allied tanks could not reliably penetrate German heavy armor. Not the Tiger, not the Panther, not even late-model Panzer IVs at long range. British engineers had the 17-pounder gun, a long, high-velocity anti-tank cannon with terrifying penetration. But the problem was simple. It didn't fit in any turret. It was too long, too heavy, too powerful for existing British tank designs. So the engineers did the unthinkable. They redesigned the turret of the American Sherman to accept the massive gun. They rotated the breech sideways. They modified the recoil system. They carved out every centimeter of space inside the turret. And little by little, the impossible became reality. By early 1944, the prototype existed. A Sherman that could kill a Tiger, but the Germans didn't know that. And British crews intended to keep it that way. Fireflies were deliberately mixed into regular Sherman platoons. One Firefly surrounded by 3 or 4 standard Shermans. From a distance, German tank crews couldn't tell them apart. The Firefly had the same silhouette, the same hull, the same turret shape. Only the long barrel gave it away. But British crews often covered it with paint or camouflage wraps to hide it. The result was devastating. German commanders, confident as ever, would spot a group of Shermans and prepare to destroy them at long range. Tigers and Panthers would maneuver into position, aim calmly, and wait for the moment to fire. But this time, before the Tiger could shoot, a blinding flash would fire back from far beyond normal Sherman range. A split second later, the Tiger's armor, believed to be invincible, would be pierced clean through. Sometimes the shell entered the front and exited the rear, tearing through every crewman inside. In seconds, German radio intercepts went from casual confidence to sudden panic. Shermans! Shermans! But one has a long gun. It's the long one. Avoid the long one. The Firefly had arrived, and the Tiger was no longer safe. British crews quickly realized that they finally had a weapon capable of turning the battlefield upside down. While normal Shermans maneuvered, suppressed, or distracted the enemy, the Firefly hung back, silent, patient, waiting. Then it struck with surgical precision. German commanders who once dismissed the Sherman as a toy suddenly found themselves facing a tank that could kill them before they even saw the shot. What made the Firefly so dangerous wasn't just its gun. It was how it was used. British commanders understood that the Sherman's biggest weakness was its armor, thin, easy to ignite, and vulnerable at almost any angle. So instead of pushing Fireflies forward, they positioned them strategically behind hedgerows, at tree-line edges, on slight rises overlooking open ground. The Firefly didn't need to move fast. It didn't need to get close. It only needed one clear shot. German tank crews were slow to accept this new threat. They still believed the Tiger ruled the battlefield, but encounter after encounter proved that the Firefly was rewriting the rules. Tiger commanders began to change their tactics, staying hull down, avoiding open fields, refusing to advance if a Sherman group was spotted. The possibility that a Firefly could be lurking somewhere nearby created a constant tension that had never existed before. Some of the most famous kills of the war came from Firefly crews. On June 13, 1944, during the Battle of Villers-Bocage, a single Firefly ambushed a group of Tigers, destroying several in just minutes. British infantry who witnessed the attack described the effect as shocking. The Tigers, once considered unstoppable, simply erupted under the 17-pounder's impact. For the first time since the Tiger had appeared, the Allies had a weapon that cut through its armor like it wasn't even there. Even more dramatic were the long-range kills Firefly crews trained themselves to shoot at distances previously considered impossible for Allied tanks. They used rangefinders improvised from binocular markings, carefully noted distances between landmarks, and pre-sighted likely German approach routes. When the Germans advanced, they walked directly into a trap. The Firefly would fire once, sometimes twice, and then immediately relocate before the Tigers could return fire. It was a deadly game of cat and mouse, except now the mouse had teeth. German war diaries from Normandy show a dramatic shift. Early entries mocked Allied tanks. Later ones grew anxious. By July, many Tiger units were explicitly ordered to avoid Sherman formations unless absolutely necessary. One German commander wrote, "They hide the long-gunned Sherman among the others. You cannot tell which one it is until it is too late." The Firefly had changed the psychology of tank combat, but the Firefly wasn't perfect. Its turret was cramped. Reloading was difficult. The massive 17-pounder produced a blinding flash and enormous dust cloud. Revealing its position instantly, crews often fired a single round, then moved as quickly as possible to avoid the inevitable German retaliation. They knew they couldn't take a hit from a Tiger or Panther. Their survival depended on discipline, teamwork, and precision. Yet despite its flaws, the Firefly earned a reputation that no other Sherman variant ever achieved. It became the tank Allied infantry begged to have nearby. It became the tank German units were told to destroy first. It became the tank that turned the Normandy hedgerows and European villages into killing fields for German heavy armor. By late 1944, something remarkable had happened. The Tiger was no longer the hunter. It was the hunted. The 17-pounder gun didn't just level the playing field, it tipped it dramatically. Allied tank crews finally had a weapon that could stand toe-to-toe with Germany's best machines, and the effect on the battlefield was immediate. When the war ended, the Firefly didn't become as famous as the Tiger. It didn't have the imposing silhouette, the heavy armor, or the mystique. But German tank aces who survived the war admitted again and again that the Firefly was the Allied tank they feared most. Not because it was the toughest, not because it was the fastest, but because, unlike everything else they faced, It could kill them before they could react. The tank German commanders once laughed at became the one that haunted them. The tank they underestimated became the one that ended their reign. The Sherman Firefly, born of desperation, built through improvisation and perfected in battle, became the Tiger's executioner, and its long barrel, once mocked, became the last thing many German tank crews ever saw.